Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this video, I'm going to show you how to transcribe using AI. So we can find good results accurately, and of course we can save time because when we transcribe with AI, it short our time. So without further ado, let's get started. Before we start to transcribe, the first one we should do is to choose what application that we want to use to transcribe. After that, we prepare the audio or video that we need to transcribe. Here I use Otter application, and the video I want to transcribe is speech about mental health awareness. When we use the application looks like this. We press the microphone logo filter to start recording the video or audio to be transcribed, and the application will start transcribing automatically.
Hello, everyone. Wow, I'm just taking a moment to take in this crowd because this is sensational. This is so exciting. We are all so thrilled to be here to talk about probably our favorite topic, mental health. We all love it. We're all passionate about it. And I'm really excited for us to have a conversation about the things that we think are really important to think about and to consider. And we hope that we'll give you a little bit of food for thought for your own experiences and your own journeys. And we hope we inspire you, maybe give you a laugh or two. And let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to start off by introducing our very esteemed panelists. I'm Dr. Jessica Stern, and I am moderating. But let me go ahead and introduce these folks. Now, the first panelist, do I need to introduce her? Probably not. I'm going to do it.
Yeah, Selena.
Hi. Selena Gomez is one of the most globally and culturally celebrated artists, actors, producers, entrepreneurs, and philanthropists of her generation. Philanthropy and activism have been key pillars of Gomez's career. Gomez has used her platform to advocate for many important causes, including mental health, where she has been a leading voice in changing the stigma. She is a co-founder of Wondermind alongside her mother, Mandy Teefee. Thank you, Selena, for everything that you do.
Thank you.
Mandy Teefee is co-founder and CEO of Wondermind, as well as executive producer of the Emmy-nominated content 13 Reasons Why and Living Undocumented. She is a patron of Women in Film and a member of the Producers Guild of America, and her philanthropic endeavors include Alliance for Children's Rights, mentoring youth, mental health rights, and organ donation. Mandy launched Wondermind in 2021 with the core strategy to achieve democratization and destigmatization of mental health by launching the world's first mental health fitness ecosystem, along with Selena. Thank you, Mandy. Next, we have Dr. Corey Yeager, who is a researcher, psychotherapist, and advocate, and author of his new book, How Am I Doing? 40 Conversations to Have with Yourself. Dr. Yeager's therapeutic practices range from the NBA, NFL, UFL, to an array of entertainment spaces. Corey and his wife have 5 sons and call Minneapolis home. Thank you, Dr. Yeager, for being here today. And last but not least, we've got Solomon Thomas, who is NFL defensive lineman, where he uses his platform to advocate for mental health to break stigma. He's also the co-founder of the defensive line, along with his parents, Chris and Martha. He's a wonderful advocate for mental health, and I'm so glad he's here. Just very briefly, I'm Dr. Jessica Stern. I'm a clinical psychologist, speaker, consultant. I'm founder and CEO of 3 Lemons LLC, which does all sorts of speaking and consulting around mental health. I'm also a clinical psychologist and a clinical assistant professor at NYU Langone Health, and I am beyond honored to be here to talk about mental health with you all. All right. Now that the intros are in place, let's get down to business. So, what we wanted to do and we want to accomplish with this panel is to have a conversation about the aspects of mental health that we shy away from them. We're maybe a little bit uncomfortable with them. We don't really know what to say. We know that there's a ton of mental health stigma. And I think what's so spectacular about these folks is that they have done an exquisite job in being able to break that stigma and to be able to challenge individuals to think about mental health in a way that is authentic and raw. And so that's really our goal today, is to have those conversations together and with you guys. And so I wanted to think of different questions that we can talk about that relate to the value systems that we have in this space, in our missions, in the brands that we work with, in the companies that we try to achieve great missions with. And really what we want to do is talk about the gritty, the fun, the interesting, the entertaining, and make this conversation just really approachable. So let's get started. Question I have for you to start us off is, how has opening up about your mental health experiences, personally and those close to you, really changed the way in which you think about mental health and the way in which you engage in conversations in your own life and with the people around you?
I guess for me, I have to be honest, I released a documentary and I was terrified to do it, and I went back and forth on whether I'd do it or not. And I think the moment I did that, I felt this insane amount of release, because there wasn't any hiding anymore. There wasn't just this image that people could see and think, oh, it looks nice. And it was probably one of the hardest moments of my life. So I would say it's helped release a lot of anxiety of keeping it in, just to let people know I'm having a hard day, or I just need a minute.
Celine, I'm curious about what you just said, because I think that's so powerful. As you went back and forth and this felt like maybe a scary decision, what prompted you to decide to do it? Probably for everyone who's been in that position too. I think releasing a song I wrote called Lose You to Love Me, and I had women coming up to me and single moms and just telling them how, or hearing their stories, and it just moved me, and I felt like I could sacrifice myself so that others could see what it might really be like, I guess. That's amazing. Yeah, I think that deserves a pretty significant round of applause.
I think there's something important here that Selena just touched on. And this is the idea that behind the scenes of our lives, there is a ton of adversity that people face. But oftentimes in this day and age, we have to some degree decontextualized our existence. We see Instagram posts and all the beautiful flash that people have. Solomon is doing great work. Selena, Mandy doing great work. And we all see that. But behind the scenes, what we don't get to see is the grind, the adversity, the struggle, the tears, all of those things that go into the existence of being a human, the human condition. So let's pay attention to contextualizing our lives. And I think that's what Selena just really touched on, that she gave the opportunity to be vulnerable so we could see some of those other aspects that she works through on a continuous basis, just like all of us, right? I think that's really important to point out.
To answer your question, Dr. Jessica, to being open and honest about my mental health wasn't something that I always was doing. Like, it took time to get here. Like, I always wasn't vulnerable, always wasn't just talking about my deepest, darkest secrets, my really sad emotions. Like, I had to go through a journey. And for me, that journey looked really different. I was raised by two beautiful parents, had an amazing sister, who always let me be sensitive and emotional at home, but that was my safe place at the time. But in reality, I was always in the locker room, around football players, around other guys, and there, like, being emotional, being sensitive wasn't something that was allowed. It wasn't a safe place. It was rejected. And, like, even to be honest, like, growing up, like, those are things that we made fun of. Like, we made fun of guys for crying. We made fun of guys for being sensitive. So, like, getting into this work was like a really hard journey for me. And then after that, like, you're hit by a hurricane and you find out that your sister is really struggling with mental health. And so I'm later in life trying to erase all these things that I've learned, all these certain ways I live by, trying to erase this archaic mindset that I live by of being a man, being tough. If I get any feelings, like suppress them or rub dirt on it, and trying to find a way to help my sister. And by that time, it was too late, and I unfortunately lost my sister to suicide, and I'm hit in this world of mental health, and it's taken a storm over me. I don't know how to handle these emotions. I'm going through this journey of grief. I don't know how to put my depression and grief and anxiety into words, and I'm just trying to live by every day. And I had to do the work. I had to go to therapy. I was in a place where my back was against the wall. I felt like I couldn't go to sleep. Felt like I couldn't wake up. Like was just stuck in a place where I didn't even know at the time, but I was stuck in suicide ideation. Like I just didn't want to be here anymore. But luckily, I went through that work and I went to therapy and I learned how to put my emotions into words. And I learned how to identify my depression. I learned how to move along and understand that hey, it's okay not to be okay. Like my sister. Thank you. Like my sister just died by suicide. I'm not supposed to be happy. I'm not supposed to be posting my highlights on Instagram. I'm supposed to be doing the work to find out how I can, be myself again. But being able to get to the strength and get to the place where I could talk about my emotions and open up about these things, it's truly impacted and changed my life in the biggest way. I feel like I can live an authentic life now. I feel like I can be myself unapologetically. Like I've done the work and I've learned about who I am and learned about how I react in certain situations, how I handle my anxiety, what I need to do to fix that, what I need to do to live with my depression, find out these things. And, it's connecting with people more than I have ever thought I could. Like you have these conversations and like you talk to these people and you might not even talk to them directly, but you have a new connection because we're all human and we're all going through these things. You may never see it, but it's important to talk about these things. And it's why I just have so much respect for everyone on this stage because it's hard to get here. It's really hard work and it's hard to be able to talk about these things, but it's needed because people are struggling and this world definitely needs more people speaking up.
I am very moved by each one of you. I think it's so inspiring, so impactful, and as a psychologist who does therapy, I deliver therapy in both individual and group ways, and the way in which all of you are willing, and not just willing, but excited to be vulnerable. It sounds like a strange word to use with the word vulnerability, but you're all motivated, inspired to do so, and that's where all the impact happens. And I salute you all. Thank you for being so honest and open. I think it's really impactful. Another thing I was thinking about in anticipation of this panel, but I think even struck me now as we're having this conversation really palpably, is the way in which we change our thinking related to mental health and language. And something I work with in therapy when I'm doing therapy, but I've also thought very critically in my own life, in my own experience, is the way in which the narrative and the words that we use around our mental health has changed. So, for instance, it starts off oftentimes for a lot of people with shame, where they find that the ways in which they describe their emotions and their thoughts is couched in shame or confusion or guilt. And then hopefully over the course of time, those emotions will build to more and more nuance and will add a little bit more dimension to our thoughts and maybe feel a little bit more empowered to talk about our mental health journeys. So in this vein, I'm curious, how has the way in which you've talked about your mental health, both internally in your own minds and maybe externally with other folks, changed throughout the course of your mental health journey?
I can answer that one. Before I really understood what mental health meant, I always knew that I felt different than other people, and I didn't understand the feelings that I was having, and so it was just easy to chalk up and go, oh, I'm just crazy. And I didn't realize that that was negatively affecting me, and so I was like, oh, I'm crazy, and then I have ADHD, which is basically a learning disability, and so I'm stupid. And it really took a long time for me to, once I did that, I was allowing other people to speak to me that way. And so then it becomes my truth. And that's not the truth of what is going on with someone who has something going on in the mental health capacity. So I I feel like the language in general has always been there. We just now have like more access to it. And I feel that it's been so misguided even from day one, because in order to understand how we need to speak to each other, we have to understand each other. And until we are willing to not have fear against the unknown, and we are able to just really have these conversations, because, I can say, oh, I have ADHD or I have trauma. I can tell right away how that person feels about me. Like, if they're even going to do business with me, they'll be like, oh, we don't know what we're going to get with her, And so partly of what we want to do at Wonder Mind is really kind of change that narrative and really encourage people that don't have access to resources, and to democratize it and destigmatize it so that we can all just flourish into our best. Because I've always spoken negative with myself, and I had to learn the role. It's like, if I wouldn't say it to my best friend, I'm not allowed to say it to myself.
Preach. Selena, I'm curious about you. With coming out with a documentary, did that change at all the way that you spoke about mental health and the way that you thought about the language that you used yourself and some of the self-criticism?
Yeah, we shot the documentary 6 years, and makes me sick to hear the things that I was saying about myself in the beginning. It bums me out because but I think everybody can relate to that feeling. I think, like everyone was sharing, it's important to speak to yourself with kindness, but I don't think I really understood that. It's funny because all the things I was bitching about then, I'm grateful for now. So it's really ironic, but I think it has taught me a lot about myself and it's weird being able to see myself so long ago saying those things that I would never say to myself now. So, weird.
Yeah. And that perspective, too, is really fascinating, to be able to look back and for all of us to see how the way that we think about ourselves and our experiences changes. And maybe we're grateful for things now that we weren't back then. And sometimes that can be pretty cool. In terms of thinking about these moments where you decided to either open up or share a story or create a foundation, for some people, maybe it was a moment in time. Sometimes it was maybe a little bit of accumulation of experiences. I'm curious for each one of you, was there that sort of aha moment, or was it a slow build in terms of when you decided you wanted to start to be a little bit more authentic with your experiences and open up to the world about your mental health?
Yeah, my moment actually came at the beginning of season 2 on 13 Reasons Why. I was crumbling. Everything was catching up to me. I had spent all these years investing my energy in avoiding what my problems were by helping other people and giving all myself away, and I ran out of fuel. And then I said, you know what? You have to practice what you preach. And I called one person, and I got on a plane, and I went to a treatment center, and I stayed there for 30 days. And it was the first time that I had ever had to sit in what and who I was. And it was very scary. It was lovely because you had no cell phone. But it was you go and you spin this weird relationship with yourself, and you can see how disconnected you are. And you're I even started trying to navigate, I can help her. And I was like, no, you have to focus on yourself. And so for me, that was the day. I was having seizures. I was sad. I was crying every day. I was just not happy. And I don't know that I would have made it had I not gone. And I was fortunate enough to go and have the resources for that. And when I was there, some people didn't have the resources and they were being asked to leave. And that was a big marker for me of going, shit that's wrong. Like, can I give them my insurance? How can I help them? How can I keep them? Like, they're like talking about suicide. Like, how are you going to let them leave? And it was, it struck a chord into me. It's like, we need to really take the time to understand who the world is and run like Wondermind looks like from the outside in. So Wondermind is all of you, and you tell us what you need, and we navigate that and find that and help find the resources so they can get the need, they can get what they need.
How about you, Selena? Was there a moment where you decided you wanted to talk about your mental health?
My moment. To be honest, I work in the weirdest industry, and I just felt like I didn't fit in. And my mom, though, I have to be honest, was very vocal and open about how I was feeling, how she was feeling. And I think we watched Girl Interrupted when I was like 12, and I was like, oh, that's what rehab looks like. And I was like confused by it. And then we ended up having one of the most honest conversations that we've ever had together. And I really appreciated it. And it allowed me to not be scared. But I will say this, you can't force someone to do it. It's just not, it doesn't work. There was a lot of people that cared about me more than I cared about myself, that really wanted me to do things I wasn't ready for. I had to hit my rock bottom, and I had to do it at my time, and it took a couple of tries, but I'd like to think and hope that I'm in a much better place now.
That's amazing. So now a question for all of you is, what are some of your go-to mental fitness tips, the things that keep you fresh, the things that maybe support you when you're going through a tough time? What are some of your coping strategies, the things that you keep in your toolbox? I am a huge believer in having a well-stocked toolbox that's going to need to replenish at times. It's going to need to change through different seasons of our lives. So the toolbox we have now is going to maybe need to change in a couple of years or in the next phase of life. But what are some of the things that you use in your own lives that you feel like are really helpful for you?
For me personally, obviously, would be therapy. Sometimes the meetings are more impactful for me. And I also am a very deep believer in DBT, which is dialectical behavior therapy. And that's something that I hold close to me. And a lot of those skills are things I've learned, like RAIN, which is recognize and allow your feelings, investigate them, and then nurture yourself. And things like that will kind of pop into my head, and it's reassuring. But sometimes I just have to let myself feel it. And let it pass.
Yeah, I love that.
If I'm feeling something that I don't understand or I don't have a method for, I will sign up for a course. I'll find one online, and I sometimes complete them. I sometimes don't, but I'll take those courses. And then I also am a huge journal, as you know. I love to create and write. It just soothes me. I think it gives me a sense of control. I can control this moment with, if something's going on. And it just it centers me and brings me so much peace and helps me find usually the answer that I really need. So, yeah, that's what I do.
I would say a couple of things. I love the journaling idea. The research tells us one of the two ways that we can really get things off is to talk to someone or to write. Right? It relieves pressure around that issue, because you can think, if you have a struggle with a significant other, as soon as that struggle ensues and it's done, what do? You oftentimes pick up the phone and call a friend and you begin to describe to them what you're struggling with. Well, innately, you know they can't fix it. You know they can't fix it. So why do we call? Because we want to relieve pressure. I want that pressure off of me. I want to talk about this and get it out. The other thing, a tool that I think that is really important, especially as you engage with the things that you already currently have, is in my book, I talk about creating a Supreme Court in your life. Those 3, 4, 5 people that know you well and will be truth tellers, not just will co-sign, but will be truth tellers. So when I have struggles, I can go to my Supreme Court and say, all right, so here's what's going on. You know me well, and I don't want no BS on this. Tell me what your thoughts are. I think I'm going to do this, or I'm considering that, and get that feedback. If you go to 3 to 5 people that you're close to and they give you real feedback, a pattern will emerge. The truth will emerge. More often than not, you already know what the truth is. They just confirm it for you. So that's a little thing I think that you can use.
Yeah, I would say that probably the 3 biggest things I do for my mental health routines is like I'm a big into therapy. You know, I've talked about it like during this talk, like therapy saved my life, and just being able to talk and understand myself. And I just think therapy is great to be aware about yourself and who you are and be mindful, but just like you get to know yourself more and more the more you talk with someone, and someone who's trained to be able to, you know, reflect back with you. And then journaling is big for me. I'm a big overthinker. I'm always in my head, and like Doc just said, like getting things off my head and onto paper helps me kind of go through my day and not worry about those things those thoughts in my head anymore. And then I'm a big meditator. Like, you know, my life is like moves very fast, like onto the next workout, next training session, rehab, next game. So like I always feel like the day is coming to me, but like when I meditate and I ground myself, I feel like I can then approach the day how I want to approach it. But sometimes like saying these, like those 3 things, like therapy, journaling, and meditating, like they like are like big like mental health words, like some that scare some people. And like I'm just like, to be honest, like you don't have to like do those things to take care of your mental health. Like taking care of your mental health can be as simple as getting enough sleep, making sure you're getting 20 minutes of working out in a day, getting 20 minutes to 60 minutes a day outside of your job so you can kind of reflect, or off your phone so you can be present. You know, making sure you're getting like the right water intake, getting out in the sun. Like these are all simple ways you can take care of your mental health without having to do these things. Like it doesn't have to, every time you take care of your mental health, it doesn't have to be like a big exertion of emotions. It can be these simple things like going for a walk. But like even past that, like just having connectivity, having community around you, having people that love you, having safe places are all ways I take care of my mental health so I can be present and just approach the day the way I need to.
Obviously, check out Wondermind, Rare Beauty, the Rare Impact Fund, and thank you guys for being here today.
Thank you.
After getting the transcribed result, we can check the accuracy again to make sure the transcribed result match with the audio.
Selena, I'm curious about you. With coming out with the documentary, did that change at all the way that you spoke about mental health? Selena, I'm curious about you. With coming out with the documentary, did that change? Selena, I'm curious about you. With coming out with the documentary, did that change at all
Okay everyone, thanks for watching my video. I hope my video gives you new information and you can get good insight, and my video will help you when you do transcribe. Thanks for watching, bye bye.
Damn.